Good morning, everyone. I hope you are able to see me, and thank you for maintaining the discipline of muting your audio and videos. Um, Welcome to this session, the unique session which we have designed for you. Today we have, I will start the session by introducing Avinash Bhagat to you. So good morning once again. Avinash Bhagat is a quiet, young, dynamic, and acclaimed passionate birdwatcher. A commerce student, he began at a very young age rescuing birds, mammals, and reptiles. This led to him with the animal welfare organization that dealt with rescue of wild animals and domestic animals. His first love being birds, he began Jungle Hike, his own enterprise in 2013, and has been arranging birding, safaris, herpetofauna, and flora trips all over India. He has steadfastly and regularly conducted trails, seminars, and workshops for school children, college students, general public, and corporate. He covers different types of habitats and studies flora, especially orchids, and the endangered flower species called as Pyrophagia. Avinash, you must tell about this particular one to us. He is a good photographer and has his work published in renowned magazines like Century Asia, Segos, Viceros, and Mistnet. Avinash has won many awards and has been felicitated by the then Minister of Environment, Srimati Maneka Gandhi, for his contribution in animal welfare. He is associated with many NGOs like Oreka Foundation and OWL. He is a freelance writer who regularly writes articles on biodiversity. With Jungle Hike, his dream is to bridge the gap and bring people closer to nature and see the wonderful mystery and create a love which will help in conserving it for the future generations to come. And that is exactly what he is doing today with this session. He's trying to bring us close to the nature. He's going to give us information about the various hotspots where one can visit, especially from the birding point of view. And hopefully you all would like this session. Once again, welcome all and welcome Avinash. A small logistical announcement. Since this is a Zoom free account, it will disconnect at 40 minutes. I will give ample notice. Once it disconnects, we will all rejoin using the same link, username, password, and we will continue with the session. You can keep your question and answers till the end. We will have ample time to ask questions either on chat or on audio. With that, Avinash, I hand over to you.
Yes, thank you, Francis, for the good introduction. I'll just share the screen, and some people, I think, they have put the message in chat box that they cannot hear properly. So I hope my voice is audible properly.
Yeah, your voice is audible. Maybe my fan is making
Yeah.
up.
I have shared the screen. I think
Yes,
all
we
of
can see your screen.
okay. So okay. So today we are starting a session. The heading of the session you can see that is birding hotspots in India. Now, what do you mean by hotspots? Hotspots are uh, the areas which has got more bird density, and within a specific time you can see maximum birds in that area. So those spots called as a hotspot, birding hotspots. Okay, and all of you must have already doing birding or going on a field trip, so you know about birding and how it helps to us. So I'm not going into that detail, but few points I have learned from the nature that in birding, while doing birding, we gain a lot of personal some good things about like persistency in our life, or we started doing conservational work after starting this birding trails, or after going into the nature. Because most of the time we usually see out of our windows, out of our building, go on terrace and see some birds. But if any time our building society or anything decides to cut the tree around the in our compound or something, then we just go and stop them, because we know that some birds are there who are roosting or feeding or visit usually on that tree. So we raise our voice, or we just oppose, not in a legal manner, but we just go and tell them about the truth. So this is what we help in conserving the nature after starting the birding. Then previously, I think 20 years ago, only some tiger safaris are introduced to go into the nature. But birding started around, I think, in 2000, after 2000, in good manner. So after that, uh, many years ago, that some states have declared some festivals of the birds, like Amur Falcon Festival or Hornbill festivals in Nagaland. So people are realizing that birding can be there, means they can get the revenue through the birding activities. So we'll see how it helps. Okay, and so there are around 1,336 birds in India. This is a good number, but uh, can we go and see these 1,300 bird at a time? No, we have to select the area properly and visit in continuous journey, and then we can get to see the maximum birds. But for that, you should know the identification of this 1,300 birds. Nobody studies the bird identification in detail, and that's why the sightings becomes less. Many people have joined me on my trips, and they have seen the bird list, and they compare always that Avinash has got this much bird, but when we visited in previous years, we got only this bird. See, the birds are always there, but you should know how to identify them, and you should know where to look for them. So that is the difference. Okay, so then India has around 104 national parks, and wildlife sanctuaries are 551. So I'm not going to go in each and every national park or wildlife sanctuary. We'll just go on some specific birding hotspot. Then tourism, there are some aspects, some elements of birding. Some are bird watchers who just go and watch the birds and study and do their own list. Then ornithologists who go and study the birds, they spend more days or months at a place and study the all the aspects of that bird. Then bird photographers are also there. So bird photographers plays the main role in conservation in kind of the social media and awareness. So they put their good photographs on the social media, or just share to with their relatives, so the relative also get very fascinated about birds, and they also start joining them. So that is the main role of bird photographers. Then bird rescuers also. Even I was a bird rescuer previously, but later on I came into the birding field. Then bird conservation and bird research also. Sometime many scientists go and spend months of time and study the bird. So what happens, these birds watchers or enthusiastic go and stay at a specific place where they get introduced to the new people who are there in the birding area, but they don't know about the bird. So these people just start to sharing their experiences, their photographs, and then the people learn the uses of bird, or they get the revenue by providing the food, by providing the vehicle facility, or by providing the any other facilities, and they can earn through that. So that's what we help the local people also by doing the birding. So many time we do walking in the forest, so we need a local guide or just to show the path some local people, or we go by vehicle or go by boat, or we go some uh, other expeditions like Himalayan treks also. We need a guide. So we help indirectly and directly, we helping the local people who are not aware about their diversity and in their area. Okay, then some people just what happened, just go and visit the hides actually has a good what we can say, good chances of birds to see, but and photograph also, but there are two sides of every coin. One good point is that you can go and see properly and take good photographs of birds, but the bad point is the hide people, they are feeding the birds, and the feeding is wrong. Why wrong? Because only the parent birds will come and feed on that whatever they have put, seeds or fruits, and then the next generation will also come with them for some time and feed on those fruits or seeds whichever they have put. But as the juveniles will grow, they have to leave that area and find their new territory. If you have seen or visited the hide, you have seen that only some specific kind of birds will visit the hide. Not all the forest birds come and join the hide parties. Some specific species will come and feed on the hide, but some species are there who are prefer the wild feeding. Now the juveniles who are leaving that area will go and find their new territory. There they will not get the food, ready-made food or fruits or seeds. Now the question is that the new generation will be the pressure on the other species who have the same habitat, who have the same feeding, who have the same area of territory. So these juveniles will go and create a pressure on the food availability, because here they are getting more food. Their parents are breeding either 2 times in a year or 3 times in a year. It depends on the feeding availability. You can see the example of rock pigeons. They are getting plenty of food in the cities, but and as a result they are breeding multiple times in a year, which should not be. मतलब ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. They have to breed in a year either 1 or 2 times depending on the species. So these juvenile birds go and create the pressure on the other species. So that is the bad thing about the baiting we got. Okay, so you have to keep in mind that where we are going and what we are going to see and what we are paying for. Just try to go and explore the nature instead of visiting hides repeatedly. I'm not saying don't go to hides, but don't go to inconsistently. Okay. Uh, then how to plan, how to maximize your sightings. So you have to plan your trips before visiting. You have to plan the list of birds where you are visiting. You can use eBird or any other portal which has got a good database or photographs, like Oriental Bird Images has got photographs. eBird has got a species list, and other some Kolkata birds, or they have got a specific list of each and every sanctuaries or each and every hotspots in birding. So you have to plan accordingly that, and you have to note the seasons also, which season which bird have seen by the experts or other. Then you have to see the habitat where those birds can be seen. You have to go through the books and check the habitats also. See, in the book, most of the uh, books has got introductory pages. I think Grimet has first 25 pages, so you have to go through that. Nobody goes through that. But those pages are most important part of the that book, that you should learn how to use that book. So that information given in those pages, so you have to go through that, and you have to go to see each and every families of the bird, how the families have distributed in so many classes or other things, and you can see the feeding, the food habits, where they prefer trees or whether they prefer the ground birds. So you have to see that also. Then you have to see the breeding time. In the breeding time, most of the birds are get more vocal that time. So if you choose that breeding season or before the breeding season, you will maximize your sighting. Then timing. Usually we go morning 7 to 9 or 7 to 10 for the trails. But if you want some specific birds, like if you are birding in the Sahyadri range of Maharashtra and you want to see some black eagle or some raptors, so you have to go around after 10 o'clock. See, the raptor will not come before, they will not start their glide before 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock or before proper good sunlight. So you have to manage the time also. The guide is most important thing when you are going on a trail in a different area, not in your regular area, but in a different area. If you're going, then you should have a good guide who has good knowledge about the habitat, the birds, as well as the area, the paths, and he should show you the maximum bird. So make all the things clear first only with the guide, that we need maximum sighting or we need good photographs. So we are okay if we are not going to see many birds, but only two birds with good photograph, I am okay. So these whatever conversation you're having, make the thing clear. Then travel is also a good part, because many times we travel by train, and while going also or coming back also, we start seeing the bird through the train, and we note down all the species and note down the spot locations and some pointers also. Or sometimes I take the GPS also, wherever I have seen the good birding spots through the train. So these things also you have to keep in mind, that next time whenever I'll come, I will get down at this station and I will explore that area, because those places are in between the stations, so you have to go through proper maps and all the other things, and especially when we are going from this the other side towards the Gujarat side. So in between there are most of the very beautiful wetlands are there. So one one time I just took some good GPS coordinates, and I explored the letter by taking a vehicle by road, and then we explored the all the that areas which has been seen through the train. Okay, so you just travel also, you have to maintain whatever the potential sites are there. Then bird watching field guide is most important thing. You have to carry the notebook also, binocular camera, spotting scope sometimes requires, sometimes it is not. Then hide, you can see the down last image. Hide you can use if you want good photographs of the bird and in proper habitat. Then now we are coming to the Indian habitats. The habitats in India we can describe in these points. The first is Himalaya, then Thar Desert, which comes in Pakistan and Rajasthan or Punjab and Gujarat area. Then Deccan Plateau, which has, I think, Maharashtra side, Deccan you can see here. Then Western Ghat, you know, the Western Ghat limits start from the Gujarat and then till the Kerala and Tamil Nadu side. Then Andaman Nicobar is one of the good habitat in India, and the coastal region like seashores and mangroves area. So these habitats you have to keep in mind, that which habitat you are going to explore. So the list of birds will change as per the habitat. Okay, then Maharashtra, if we see specifically, Maharashtra has around 555 birds as per the eBird, because Maharashtra has got different types of habitat in the specific region. The Mumbai and Konkan region, if you see, the majorly you will find the seashores along the coastal line. Pada region, we find the grasslands and mix or shrub forest. Okay, then we in Maharashtra we have many reservoirs and dams also, and there are many sanctuaries and protected areas also. So Maharashtra has got very variety of habitat, and that's why the bird list of Maharashtra is around 555. Okay, then the birding hotspots in Maharashtra, if you can talk about the Mumbai region, the Sanjay Gandhi National Park is there, then Thane Creek is there, the Karnala, Matheran region. See, Matheran is a starting point of the Western Ghat in Maharashtra. So from Matheran, you can see some endemic birds which are endemic to Western Ghats. Then as you go down, Chiploon, Sawantwadi, then in Sawantwadi nearby, you can see Tilari forest area is good habitat for the Western Ghat region. Then Amboli is there. Amboli is known for the herpetofauna, but birds are also there. Then, then if you go to Pune, then Sinhagad area is there, which has got good evergreen forest. And then Saswad or that area is grassland patch. So you can see the difference in habitats also. Lonavala region is also there. So you can go and see some decidia, sorry, evergreen birds. Then Kolhapur, if you go, then Radhanagari and Dajipur sanctuary is there. So both are good spots for the great hornbill or some endemic birds of Western Ghat. Then Satara region, if you go, then Koina and Chandoli region sanctuaries are there. Those are also evergreen forests. Then we have got many tiger sanctuaries in Maharashtra. So whenever we go for the safaris, do see the bird life also. Don't only go for the tiger safaris. Or if you, see, that is the problem when people just go and see, and they just uh, they just want to see the tigers. They don't want any other wildlife in their trip. But you have to tell them that these are all interconnected and food chain. So if you explain them properly, then they will start enjoying. See, why people are lacking this information, because nobody is going to tell them, or nobody tells them about this diversity. So that is the question: how we explain to our relatives or friends these new tourists also should get aware about the diversity in the forest. Okay, in Maharashtra region, we have got different seasons, and we know how to deal with that. So in monsoon season, definitely we get the rain. So in that season, we have to carry the umbrella and all. So in Maharashtra region, I'm skipping that things to carry, but in next we will include that. So now the next habitat is Himalaya. In this picture, if you can see, there are two main types of Himalayas. One, we have Western Himalayas, and one we at the right side we have Eastern Himalayas. If we talk about the western part, there is one more section, Trans Himalayas. The Trans Himalayas is a cold desert type habitat. It is mostly, some part of the Trans Himalayas is in Tibet or Nepal or China side, and some part in our India. So that habitat is different than any other Himalayan region. I think only Trans Himalayas can be seen only in the Leh Ladakh areas, and some area is in Sikkim also, in the North Sikkim. So that is the region of cold desert. See, you will not see many type of trees there, or not many vegetations are there, but bird life it's there. The sandy, and most of the time it covered with the snow, and the rocky habitat is there. So that's what we called as a cold desert. And if we come to the eastern side of Himalayas, that is most of the hilly region, hilly and the evergreen forest or broadleaf forest. The Seven Sisters, we called Northeast region as a Seven Sisters area. So there are some state like Arunachal, Assam, Nagaland, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Tripura, Manipur, and sometimes even Sikkim also included in this eastern region. basic different is in habitat and the region. The trees and the shrubs types is different in western and eastern Himalayas. So because of that, the bird life is also different. If you cover the western Himalayas, you will find more species of kits and babblers and laughing thrushes mostly in this region. And as compared to the eastern region, you will find more warblers or the what we can say robins, which prefers the which are the skulker birds. So most of the eastern part of Himalaya region has got more varieties of warblers. So you have to plan your trip according to that. Even the these seven sisters has got around a bird list of around 650 or more than that also. So only that region has got those numbers. So if you can compare that Maharashtra has 550 and the Northeast has around 600, then what should be your bird count if you cover all the regions of that area? So it's like that. So you have to cover most of the habitats. Okay, then Himalaya, we can say Ladakh. So if you're planning a trip to Ladakh, then first thing you have to remember that you are not suffering from any breath diseases like asthma or dama or any high blood pressure or some kind, because the high altitude of Ladakh is can be very fatal for those people who are suffering from this disease. That travel you can go by flight to Leh, and from Leh you have to compulsory take a rest of 2 days by doing nothing, just watching some TVs or some films in the room hotel, because the oxygen level is very low and your lungs have to be prepared for that. So you need to drink more water to increase your oxygen level in the body. See, only breathing oxygen is not sufficient to survive in that region, so your body should be acclimatized for that climate. So 2 days compulsory rest. And the second way of reaching Ladakh is just get down at Srinagar airport, and from that area you can go by road to Leh. And in Ladakh, there are some spots like Changla Pass is there, then Tanglala is there, Pangong Lake is there, Sokar is there, Hanle marshes are there. These are the some hotspots where you have to go. See, there are no specific region or specific habitat to go and search the birds. You just have to go moving through the vehicle, and if you can see some moving objects, and then you have to wait and watch the birds. See, the same region you are visiting, the marshes will have some good wagtails and other small birds, mountain finches and all. The rocky region will have the what we can say eager owls or little owl is there. So that kind of stuff. The marshes area you will find the Himalayan, the state bird of Jammu Kashmir, that is black-necked crane. So that region you can explore for that. Then Uttarakhand region, if you come, then we have Nanda Devi National Park is there, which covers the Chopta and that region, Chopta especially. Then we have Sattal and Pangot also, and Munsiari also. See, these habitats has got different altitudes. So different altitude means a different vegetation, and different vegetation means a different bird life. So in Sattal Pangot, you will not find the Himalayan monal. For that, you have to either go to Chopta or Munsiari. Maybe may have some sighting of the Himalayan monal because of the altitude. See, they have got their own feeding habits, and for that they need the specific vegetation or the specific altitude to feed on. Okay, so these are Uttarakhand. For Uttarakhand, you have to go to either Dehradun or Jolly Grant Airport is there, or for Chopta you have to get down at Haridwar, which is nearest. For Sattal and Pangot, you have to go to Kathgodam railway station, which is nearest. And if you compare the Sattal and Pangot area, those areas has got many heights, bird heights. But apart from that height, there are so many other beautiful areas where you can see the birds in the wild. There are some species where you have to go and see them into the hide only, like rufous throated partridge. It is very difficult to find the bird in the wild, but it is very easy to find the bird in that hide, because that bird is become very bold, and you can see properly and photograph them. Sometime you have to go to the hide, but most of the time you have to learn how to explore the regions also, other regions also. Okay, and in Uttarakhand or any Himalayan region, you have to prepare yourself for cold, for rains, for snow, because anytime anything can be happen. So I was at the season, cold, rain, and snowfall. Anything can be happened in that Himalayan region, full Himalayan region. I'm not specifically the Uttarakhand or Jammu Kashmir. Everywhere you may find rains or snow or cold. So you have to be prepared with the woolen clothes also, and with the rainwears also. And as well as to protect your camera or binocular, you have to carry more plastic bags also, which helps if suddenly rain comes and your vehicle is far away and you have to walk to the vehicle. So it helps. Then you have to always wear shoes and carry the leech socks also with you in the Himalayan region, because leech can be some people are used to with the leech, but some people are afraid with the leeches. So that's why you have to always carry the proper leech guards or leech socks. Also, you have to carry the leech removal some things, like some ointments are there, or you can use salt also, plain salt if you put on the leech, which is stuck on your legs or wherever. So that what happens if you put salt, the leech uh, by themselves they release and lose their mouth which they have stuck, or lose their teeth which they have stuck in our body. If you try to remove directly, the some parts of their broken tooth can be inside the body part, and then it may get infection. So it is always advisable to remove with the some whatever substance you are using, either a salt or either a haldi some people use, or some people use tobacco. So use those kind of stuff. Don't pull the leeches directly, or better to have the proper protection. But we have experienced that if we cover proper shoes and proper leech guard, the leeches just climb to the body and they can reach up to your neck region, where we usually don't tie anything. So it is it is a personal thinking that either you want them to bite on the leg or you want to bite them on the neck. So most of the time in the rainy season, not all the season, but wherever there is a dampness in the habitat or on a walking trail, you have to be very careful about that. Even the Himalayan region has got many snakes also. So you have to be careful with that also. So your shoes and the footwear should be waterproof, or good quality footwear you have to uh, take. Okay, then Sikkim region, if you are talking, then for Sikkim, you have to either get down at Bagdogra airport, or there is one station called New Jalpaiguri. From Kolkata to New Jalpaiguri, you can go by train. And in Sikkim region, there are again altitudinal changes as you go further away, further towards north. You will find the altitudinal changes in the Sikkim region. So every altitudinal changes, there are different birds. So there is no specific region you have to go and explore, but there are some, like you have to, if you started the journey from Bagdogra airport, then you have to go to the Gangtok first to get the permission or the permits for the north or for west or whatever region you are going. You have to go and collect your permit from the Gangtok area, or if you are going to east side, then I think some road, I forgot the name now, but you have to go that area. So you just make sure that your driver or whatever guide you have, he knows where to go get the permissions, because the border areas like Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh, or even in Ladakh region, you need the proper permissions, or some local should be there to uh, arrange all this stuff for you. Okay, so make sure that your driver or whatever your guide know all these things, permissions and all. Okay, then in South Sikkim, the region of the habitat is mostly broadleaves and the lower altitude. So while going to the Sikkim, you are passing through the West Bengal region, which has got good sanctuaries like Lava Latpanchor, and even Mahananda Wildlife Sanctuary. You just go through that sanctuary. So just while traveling, you can either wait or explore that area, or just through the vehicle also you can see. And as you reach to the South Sikkim, there are some places like Kitam Bird Sanctuary is there, where you can see some kind of laughing thrushes or Malkoa species are there, which prefers the lower altitude region. See, wherever the in the winter season, when the snowfall or the cold started, that time the most of the birds come little down, uh, down altitude, because they cannot tolerate the the very low temperature in the high northern side. So they just come down, and as the snow means as the summer started, they just go again and breed whatever their lifestyle and live their lifestyle. So you have to be very careful about what season you are going and what will be the situation uh, there. So you have to think about that also. Then Sikkim has, as I said earlier, it has got a habitat like Ladakh in the northern region, North Sikkim, if you specify. The Gurudungmar Lake, which has got height of 17,800 feet. So only that region is restricted for the, I said, the breathing diseases वाले जो लोग होते हैं उनके लिए. But rest other Sikkim you can explore in whatever conditions. So other Sikkim is very safe for other people also, but only North Sikkim, if you are visiting, then you have to be very careful, and you have to take proper acclimatization before reaching the higher altitude. Okay, then Assam, if you go again the eastern side of the Himalayan region, then Manas National Park is there, Kaziranga is there, then Nameri and Pakke Reserve, Pakke Tiger Reserve is there. See, every sanctuary has got a different bird life. Every sanctuary has got a different habitats. Manas and Kaziranga has got proper grassland type habitat. So you have to explore for the Bengal florican and some other birds which prefer the grassland habitat. Then Nameri and Pakke Tiger Reserve are properly a tiger sanctuaries, but bird life is also good. And Nameri and Pakke Tiger Reserve are very famous for the very rare and endangered the white-winged wood duck. So those ducks can be seen in that area. Even the Dihing Patkai sanctuary is there in Arunachal. Actually, it is not in Arunachal, it's just a border area of the Arunachal and Assam. So there also you can see the white-winged wood duck. And then again Maguri Beel and Jia grassland, and the Dibru Saikhoa National Park. These are the region which has the habitat like just river beds, and the Brahmaputra river has got very uh, vast kind of habitat of river beds and the shrubs and the trees. So they have got a different what we can say bird life, like marsh babbler or the black-throated parrot. Sorry, not black-throated, black-breasted parrotbills are there. Jordan's babblers. Then some prenias are there. So these birds are only specific to the region where that uh, type of one type of grass, and they prefer that habitat only. So if you want to see these rare birds, you have to go either Maguri Bale area or one area in, I think, in Punjab, Harike National Park. So there also you can go. I don't know whether it is a national park or sanctuary, but the habitat is much similar, like this Jia grassland and Maguri Bale. So you can go there also. Then in Arunachal Pradesh, Namdafa sanctuary is there, and Mishmi and Dibang and Tawang. See, these are the places. There are sanctuaries also, but it is not recommend that always you have to go inside the sanctuary gate. See, the full northeast region has got similar habitat, and if you are getting some birds inside the sanctuary, same birds you will get outside the sanctuaries also. So it doesn't uh, uh, means it is not very much advisable that you have to go and visit the sanctuary by paying the tickets and all. You just need a good eyesight and knowledge of bird and knowledge of their habits. Sometimes the birds, especially the northeast birds, are very shy because the hunting activity is very much in uh, they are doing very the local people are very much into hunting. So that's why the birds are uh, just hide themselves if they see some birders or whatever human beings. Okay, I'm not going much details about these seven sisters because the area is somewhat similar, but there are very diverse birding. So, but the whatever care we have to take, like the whatever things we are carrying, it's somewhat same for all the Himalayan region. So these seven sisters are also has got many endemic birds. So you have to include whatever states you are visiting and just find all the sanctuaries nearby and then explore that region. Okay. So this is just a idea of Himalayan region. First picture you can see the Ladakh type of habitat, the cold desert I mentioned. The second picture is the highest lake, the Gurudungmar Lake, which is somewhat full frozen, the lake. And here you can see the Chopta and that region, the somewhat hilly region, and with the broadleaf forest and some snow also. The fourth one is also a similar, the lower altitude area. These are some birds. Ladakh, you can see black-neck crane is a state bird of Jammu and Kashmir. Then Tibetan sand grouse, great roach finch. Then Uttarakhand state bird is Himalayan monal and some other laughing thrush, and it is there. Then Sikkim is got a blood pheasant as a bird of their state. Then some green magpie and black-eared shrike babbler. So these birds, these are just example. I'm not covering all the birds. Only 3-4 species I am giving. Assam state bird, which I mentioned, the white-winged wood duck. Then red-headed trogon, the Bengal for florican. Arunachal Pradesh also has got many varieties and colorful birds. The state bird of Arunachal, I think it is great hornbill. So then we are moving to a next session, next element of the habitats, the Thar Desert. So it prefers mostly, it spread over, I think, in Rajasthan and Gujarat mostly. The main desert, if you want to see that, you have to go to the Desert National Park, which is in Jaisalmer. Okay, so now if you are talking about the desert area, what things you have to keep in mind while arranging the trip, that this desert habitat has got a drastic change of climate. Like Himalayas has very cold climate, and but inverse situation, the desert had got a very hot climate. So you have to pack your bags according to that. The cap is must thing, bandana, sunglasses, and towels to just wrap yourself, or with the to wrap the your equipments also, cameras and the binoculars also sometimes, because as we travel we get a lot of sand coming into the our vehicle. and you cannot put AC on because of that filter get stuck with the sand, and then they have got some issues. The driver will never on the ACs. Most of the time they prefer the open gypsies for this safaris, desert national park and all. So this desert habitat also has got a different lifestyle of diversity. The grassland and the shrub forest you can see in this region has got very limited food and very limited number of birds here. But these areas has got some wetlands also. So those also plays a very good role in the species. You can see like some ducks or some waders also you can find in the deserts. So there are three type of run means desert only. So there are two types of run in the Gujarat region, Little Run of Kutch and Great Run of Kutch. And the third one main is a Desert National Park. So Desert National Park has got a, you know that it is very famous for the Great Indian Bustard. Okay, and then Great Run of Kutch is mostly for the raptors and other birds of prey, or some grassland birds. Like it has got this bunny grassland and charidand wetlands also in the Great Run of Kutch area. Then Little Run of Kutch is much famous for the wild ass as well as the short-eared owls or any the some other grassland birds. In this region, there are two seasons of bird watching, not only winter season. The Himalayan region has got, I think we prefers going in Himalayas in summers, like after March, April. But in Thar Desert, if you want to visit, there are two seasons of bird watching. One is for the resident, the migrants, winter migrant, and one is for the passage migrants. What are the passage migrants? Passage migrants are the birds who start their journey from the Europe region. They come to the India on the this Rajasthan and Run side. They wait for some days, like 8 to 10 days in that area. They feed, and again they move towards the African region. So before passing, either they cross the sea or either they go from the Gulf region. They have to take a break to gain the weight, and then they start their second journey. So they wait for 8 to 10 days in this region in September month. So you have to plan your trip in September month by asking the guide and the climatic situations about the rain and other things. See, we cannot predict the when the birds will come, but most probably the passage migrant birds comes in the September month. So you have to plan the trip in September month for the passage migration. And the winter migrant is always there. So November to March, I think it is the best season to see winter migrants of the deserts. There is one bird which is endemic to Thar deserts of India. Not India only, but the Thar desert, which has spread, I think, in Pakistan or some Balochistan or that area also included. There is one bird which is endemic to this desert area. That is Stoliska bushchat, which is endemic. It does local migration in within the Thar area. So Thar area is spread out in I think Bikaner region also has got some desert area. So the other areas are like Tal Chhappar Wildlife Sanctuary is there. Bikaner, you can go and see the most of the vultures and the birds of prey. Lots of, I think, in thousands you can see the vultures there in the Bikaner region because of that carcass dump in Jorbid. Then Tal Chhappar has got some specific birds like yellow-eyed pigeons, which you have to go and see only in Tal Chhappar in this Thar desert area, and the spotted creeper, the spotted tree creeper. Then these are the two birds you have to go and see in Tal Chhappar. Then some neglected bird like water pipit or blitz pipit or some buff-bellied pipit. These are the species which we never pay attention, but those species are always there in this region. So you just have to go and check them properly. See, most of the guides also never show you these species because they also don't know how to identify them. So I'm coming again on the first point. You should know the region, which birds you can see, and their identification as well as their behavior, what they do, where to find them. You have to go and study first. Then Shoklia Ajmer, it is very famous for the lesser florican, so you can explore that area also in this. Then Velavdar and some other grassland like Nal Sarovar is there. All over Gujarat and Rajasthan has got most of the type similar habitat in the Thar region. Okay, so then some birds of this area. Bustard, you can see the desert lark, which is also endemic bird to Thar region. Then cream colored courser, you can see. Then this trumpeter finch, which is migrant, which comes in winter season. Then this gray hypocoleus, this bird is also very rare. You can see only around the Great Run of Kutch or that area. Then this one is Stoliska bushchat, which I mentioned, the endemic bird. So this species is very little known about their breeding behavior, but they're always seen in this plumage. But in breeding plumage, they get like black feathers on the body. But there are very less study is completed on this bird, so we don't know actually where it goes. But it is endemic to the region, so it should be within the range. Then some passage migrations like this scrub robin, you can say rufous tail scrub robin, the vultures I have mentioned. Then the spotted sand grouse, which I think it came after 20 years in the Great Run of Kutch area. Then again last year it doesn't come, or it came but just washed out because of the late rains. So these are some birds you have to go and explore in the Thar desert. Okay, then we are coming to the Deccan Plateau. Deccan Plateau, which covers, I think, four states: Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and Telangana. So, this Deccan Plateau is most of the scrub forest and the hilly region, but not very higher altitude hills. This is lower altitude, but the habitat, if you can see the second picture, it has got trees, but not very tall trees or like broadleaves or evergreen trees. These are like trees like bushes, like acacia trees, or most of the time we in Marathi we call as babu trees, and the grassland area. So these grasslands also has a different biodiversity, if you can see. If you know and remember the bird, uh, which has we are taking it as a extinct from India, probably the Jayden courser. So that courser is also found in this Deccan region. Is used to be found. The sanctuaries like Lanka Malleshwar and in Telangana, I think now. So that bird also from this region, and the drastic changes in the habitat and the human activities in the region, uh, the elusive bird like Jayden courser has been now probably extinct from the region. Then the habitat in these areas are like I mentioned, the hilly regions. So that's why the most of the birds are somewhat similar to the Thar desert birds in the form of color. If you can see, the color of the bird will be very similar to the grass or the sand. So that helps them to camouflage themselves in the that area. Okay, then some hotspots in this region are, I mentioned that Lanka Malleshwar, then Rolapadu in Andhra, then Maharashtra has got grassland like Nanaj is there, then Saswad area of Pune is there, then Rehekuri bird sanctuary is there, then other like in Karnataka, if you call it Hampi, then Daroji National Park, then Badami, then Ghataprabha Bird Sanctuary is there. So these are the less known because most of the birds of this region we get in Mumbai region also, Mumbai or around Mumbai or around Pune area also, like coursers and other sand grouses and all. So that's why this region you don't have to go extensively for some spot. If you cover the Hampi area, you will find most of the birds of region. If you cover the Nanaj area, you will find most of the grassland birds. So you cover the species, and this habitat is somewhat has got similar species. Not like northeast area that every state has got a different bird life. In the northeast region, every state has got different bird life. So it is not like that. Deccan Plateau has vast habitat, but very limited number of birds. So these are just examples of some birds like painted sand grouse, the painted spur fowl, yellow-billed babbler, then this endemic bird, yellow-throated bulbul, then some larks and raptors also, Indian courser, which is also endemic to India and to the Deccan Plateaus as well as the Thar Desert. So these are the main birds you can see in the Deccan Plateau. Here in the Deccan Plateau, you don't have to take very much care about the climate because this Deccan Plateau has got very limited rainfall, and weather will be always pleasant either very hot. You just have to dress up accordingly and take care of your head. I think headgear will be enough for the to roam in this area. Then we have the Western Ghats. So there are four types of Western Ghat. We don't know actually much, but the northern Western Ghat, which starts from Dang forest in the Gujarat, and then it breaks up, and then again starts from Matheran region towards to the Konkan region. Okay, so it has the Western Ghat has got you know that it has got global declared as a global heritage site because of its very unique diversity in kind of flora as well as in kind of fauna. So this region has got very different habitats. Like habitat is similar, but the altitude is different. So that's why they have distributed in four parts: the northern Western Ghats, which is in especially in Maharashtra; the central Western Ghat. See, they have changed the color also, so you can see the northern Western Ghat is mixed kind of forest, mixed trees. There are some trees which are evergreen. There are some trees which are deciduous also. So this northern Western Ghat is a mixed forest. Then central Western Ghats is a properly evergreen forest. And Nilgiris, if you see, the Nilgiri region has got a shola forest. Like shola means a type of a grass, and like Himalayas also, they have got good high altitude mountain ranges, and the mountains are not covered with the trees, but they are covered with the small shrubs and the grass. So that called as a shola forest. So in Nilgiri region, we get this shola forest and the specific birds of that region. Then southern Western Ghat is much dense, much we can say rainforest is there. So you have to go through as per the region. Okay, then which hotspots are there? Then the Dang, which I have mentioned, the Tansa Wildlife Sanctuary, you know, it is very famous for the forest owlet. Then starting from Mathiran, then Mahabaleshwar is also a good spot. See, always the hill stations are built on a specific height to uh, means hill stations means to get the proper joy of the nature, and this joy including all the flora and fauna. But most of the people just go and enjoy their life there, but nobody explores the habitat around. So you have to find whichever hill station nearby you and just go and explore the bird areas in that area. Okay, then Lonavala in Konkan region, there are so many we can say spots like which has got somewhat similar forest range, and but the species level is depending on the altitude, I say. Then in Goa region also you can go in Bondla or Kotigaon Bhagwan Mahavir Sanctuary. Uh, then in Dandeli is there in Karnataka, Ganesh Gudi, Supa Dam is there in Karnataka. Then थोड़ा और नीचे जाओगे तो then we have Coorg, which has got so much cultivations of coffee and tea also. In थोड़ा और नीचे जाएंगे then we have Wayanad in Kerala, and then Tattekad and Munnar in Kerala. Then thoda aur niche, then Valparai and Periyar National Park. So these are the hotspots of Western Ghat. If you want to really explore the Western Ghat, you have to go in these regions. In Nilgiri forest, you have to explore. Then you have to go to either Munnar, where we have Eraviculam National Park. There you can see some species of Nilgiri region. Then Uti and Valparai Shola forest you can go. There also you can see some Nilgiri species like Nilgiri pipit is there. Then Nilgiri Shola kili is there. There's some species which are endemic to the Nilgiri region. So those species will never come to the northern western side or the downwards. They will be in the Nilgiri region only. So they are very much endemic into that region. So that's why their conservation also is very important, because they have very limited area to survive. Okay, then these are some birds which are endemic to the Western Ghats. Many of you know the birds, so I'm not repeating the names. Down you can see this Nilgiri Sholakili bird is there. So this is Nilgiri forest. Then this is bay owl, which you can see at Tattekad forest. Then frogmouths and this Nilgiri wood pigeon. Okay, so these are the Nilgiri and Western Ghat endemic birds. Now we are coming to the Andaman and Nicobar. So Andaman and Nicobar is it is a just what we can say. There are so many islands around. I think 572 islands are there, and in this first picture you can see the habitat of the region. So there are wetlands also, there are freshwater bodies, there are marshlands also which has got salt water, as well as there are some forest also. Okay, and it is a small area. I think 8,250 kilometers square का area है, and so many islands are not even explored properly with their biodiversity. So many new species are also are discovering or may discover in the coming year. So there are some hotspots like this Mount Harriet National Park is there, where you can go and see some endemic birds of Andaman and Nicobar. Then they have got one Chidia Tapu area, which has got good old forest. This is the picture of Chidia Tapu, and you can see the width of the tree trunk, I think. So you can see the difference between the trees and the habitat. You can see this is very old tree, and the forest is also very old. So the species have been evolved for that uh, from those years, and that's why the difference between the mainland species and the Andaman and Nicobar Island species. Okay, the nearest airport you have to get down at. Shit, I forgot the name, but okay.
Port Blair.
So there are some Port Blair Airport. Sorry. Then there are some seashores also. Beaches are also there, so you can go and see the beach thickney or other beach birds. As the region falls in, I think, the eastern part of world, the some Malaysian species or some that side of species also we can get to see while they were just passing through, or they were just migrating from that region, and they just wait for some days. So like white-browed crake or that Arctic warbler, it migrates from the Arctic region, but it goes to the Malaysia region. So, but in between it goes and stays for some days or some time, or it may be coming uh, from so many years. So those species also we can get to see in this Andaman and Nicobar. So it is always full of surprises, and you can get anything in that area, but the access is very limited. The facilities are very limited. Sometimes you have to go by boat to the Nicobar or Little Andaman, and then you have very limited stay options or very limited food availability in that area. So you just have to be very careful about where you are going. So safely, if you want to do the birding in that area, just Mount Harriet and Shoal Bay area is there. Then Chidia Tapu, which I mentioned. So these are safe spots. But the expenses are more because all the food items or all the facilities they have to uh, import from the mainland, and they cannot produce because of the tsunami. They, all the farmers and all the people have lost their farmlands, and all the farmlands are now become a wetlands there. And the main disadvantage is that the all farmland which they missed, and all the farmland become wetlands now, and so many birds are visiting. The people are again reclaiming their farmlands. We cannot say it is good, but it is their livelihood and it is their land, so it belongs to them and they have full right to uh, reclaim it. But still, it is very
Avinash,
difficult for those birds. Yes. Okay, so we were at Andaman and Nicobar. So there are so many endemic birds on the specific islands also. One species like Narcodum hornbill is can be found only on a specific island, which called as Narcodum Island in that region. Even the Nicobar megapod is, it is very endemic to Nicobar Islands. So you have to plan a trip for those island if you want to see those species, and which is very expensive also, which is very inconvenient also. So we may have to even I have not seen those species, or I have not been to that Nicobar area, but I may go in my future trips. Then these are some photographs of Andaman birds, which look very similar to the mainland birds, but the species and uh, the some habits or some ID features are different from the mainland birds. The first you can see the Andaman bulbul, then Andaman shama. It is very similar to our own shama. Then this white-billed wood swallow, then long-tailed parakeet, the sorry, then long-tailed parakeet, the Hume's hawk owl, which is very similar to our brown hawk owl, but it is much darker in color. Then Andaman flower picker, then Asian glossy starling, and the vagrant bird. I told this is a white-browed crake we got in our last trip, which is a vagrant bird to India, and I think only two sightings are there from India. One is from in northeast region Maguri Bale area, and then second time it's sighted in this Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Then this is Sunda teal, also called Andaman teal, which is endemic to Andaman region. Then some mangrove birds like this mangrove whistlers or that pied triller is there. Then some kingfishers like ruddy kingfisher and other coastal kingfisher also you can see in this Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Okay, then we are moving towards the coastal birding. Now the coastal birding has got two type of birding. One is shore birding and one is pelagic birding. So if shore birding, most of them you know that in nearby Mumbai we can go to Akshi Beach or Arnala or Vasai area, that side we can do the shore birding of coastal region. Then in Maharashtra, we can go to Sevri, Navi Mumbai area, then Arnala, Akshi Beach, and other beaches of Konkan, which has got very similar kind of bird species. Then in Gujarat, the famous spots for the shorebirds is Jamnagar. You must have to go Jamnagar if you want, if you are really interested in waders and other shorebirds. Then Mandvi region is also very rich for the this waders. Then Goa and Kerala or Mangalore, Chennai, Point Kelima. These are some other spots where you can go to see the waders or the shorebirds. But the birds will be similar because most of the waders we can find around the Jamnagar area in the Gujarat and Mumbai area. Only some vagrant birds like tattlers or some pectoral sandpipers, they have sightings from this Point Calimar area or the Kerala region. Then Lakshadweep is also one of the island like Andaman and Nicobar. So many vagrant species also we can see in that region. For pelagic birds, you need some specific permissions to go into the sea. Previous years we used to go from Mumbai or Akshi area, but nowadays it has stopped because of the permissions and that Kasab attack was there. So after that, nobody is giving permission to go in for the pelagic birds. But Goa, you can still go for the pelagic birding, and Mangalore, I think that Shiva Shankar, one of my friend, is also starts the trail for pelagic birds. So these are the two destinations you can go and see the pelagic birds. Okay, then season for the pelagic bird is very different. It is the pelagic birds are more active on the monsoon season, which we cannot go into the sea because even the fishing boats are also banned during that season. But October, November, that is a good season. Till December, Jan also you can go. As you go more deep into the sea, deep inside the sea, you will find more birds. Uh, then boat uh, should be very good because sea sickness, many people go through that, and make sure that your boat has proper hood or proper toiletries inside the boat. The expert should be there because the boat is moving always, and you may find giddiness or you cannot see proper through your binoculars. So scopes and other things are not very important in this trips. So you have to concentrate on the what we can say very long distance. If you see very closely into the water and moving through the moving boat, you will find more sick. So that's why I keep in mind that always you, if you are doing pelagic trip, just see a wider vision. A wider vision you just see. Then permissions, I have mentioned that permission from maritime board and the coastal police as well as the navy sometime. I think Chennai has got some incident that their pelagic trip boat has been stuck in between the sea. Their engine got failed down, and then navy people saved them, and so much issue was happened. So just make sure that you are going with the authorized boatman or fishermen, and you have all the permissions. So okay, then things to carry, that you have to carry ID proof always, life jacket, scarf, sunglasses. See, these are things to carry for all the trips, but especially for the pelagic trip I am mentioning here because you are not a means all the audience people are here are already doing birding, and I am not mentioning all the things which you have to carry, but for this trip pelagic I am just mentioning. So life jacket, make sure. Then sunglasses, GPS, you have to track your GPS. Where are you going? Are you going beyond the boundaries of fishing territories, or you are within the Indian range? Sometimes we may go very near to the Pakistan boundaries also if we are traveling from the northern part. Then you have to make sure about the GPS also. Then camera, binocular, that is very essential. Then fruits or medicines. Sea sickness के लिए medicine is avomine or some. It depends on the choice. Then no wearing loose clothes or ponchos. Because of the wind, you may get you may lose your balance also. So try to wear tight clothes. Then plastic bags, because many times sometimes that dampness or the which goes into the camera, and fungus also sometimes goes. So use plastic bags to avoid that. Then travel light and do your homework about on the pelagic birds, which species, which region you are going. See, it is also a surprise. Anything can be seen in the pelagic trip. uh, Especially in Mumbai trips, we may mostly see the skuas, and then petrel. Sometime we have seen Wilsel storm petrel, then bridal tern or sooty tern. You can see the tropic birds also. You may see some Goa trips has got shearwater birds. So there are many types of birds. So just go and study the birds first, and then you can start the pelagic trip. But make sure that it has got all the permissions. Without permissions, you may create problem for you. Then some other important bird areas which I may have missed in my presentation, but there are some specific birds where you have, if you want to see them, you have to go to the specific area. Like this photo, you can see this green munia. So to see the green munia, you have to go to Mount Abu, because only distribution in India is at Mount Abu of this green munia. Then this mangrove pitta downwards, you can see this mangrove pitta. It is just recently, it is I think 2010, it is described or discovered from the area of Bhitarkanika National Park. So that is very endemic bird to mangroves of India, and only in Bhitarkanika or Mangalajodi or Sundarban area you can find them. Then some type of kingfishers you have to see. Sundarban is good for the most of the kingfisher species. So like this, there are some spots which are specifically you have to go to some specific birds. In West Bengal, Sundarban, Latpanchor, Mahananda, I have mentioned. Gajaldoba wetland is also good for the migrant birds. Then Nevra Valley in West Bengal. Then Punjab, there is Harike wetlands. So for the Jerdon's babbler, marsh babblers, and Rufous vented Prinias and other birds, you can find those birds in Harike wetlands. Then in Uttarakhand, Jim Corbett National Park is there. Munsiari, I have mentioned earlier also. Then Rajasthan, Bharatpur is also there. Khichan, then Mount Abu. These places I have not mentioned earlier, but these are also hotspots of birds, especially for the ducks and the cranes. Khichan is famous for the cranes. Bharatpur is for all the waterfalls and other birds. Then Mount Abu is for this green munia, as well as some, I think, white cap bunting also can be seen there. Then Odisha, Mangalajodi, Chilika Sarovar is there, Bhitarkanika is there. So these are, Bhitarkanika is for the mangrove pitta. Rest other birds in those areas will be very similar to the Mumbai region also, or the Bharatpur region also, or the wetland region. Then Tamil Nadu, there is one Point Calimere. I think BNHS has their ringing center there, so you can go and see the birds there also. So these are some important areas where you can go and explore the birds there. But as earlier in the starting, I have mentioned that go and study the area, study the bird life of that area where you are going to visit. And so now these are some memories of our trips. Every year we conduct some trips. We see the bird sighting. We keep tracking the diversity in India, which birds are where they are sighting, and we arrange the trips. So most of the time we specifically take a limited participant because of some reasons. And then you can always contact me, or if you want to join with me some trips, you can contact or see our website junglelike.in, or you can contact me on this number or email ID. So now we can have a question and answer session if we want to.
Sure. Thank you very much,
Thank
Avinash.
you.
Thank you very much
Yes.
for the wonderful. I think we all got a complete trip of India from north to east to south to west, and also the sea as well.
Yes.
Wonderful session. I am
Thank you.
opening for question. Anybody who wants to ask question, you can enable your video, audio, and ask question one by one. Or if you cannot ask through audio, you can type it in. I will read it out for you. Please go ahead with your question.
Chat will be the good option.
Yeah.
Chat will be the good option. Chat.
Yeah. So for a question which came from Awadh earlier, so I will repeat that question once again. When do you think after the lockdown, the first real trip will start for birding?
Okay, I think November will be the best season, and the Kutch region or the desert area we start first of the season. So November, I think we may start the trips, and if possible, the passage migration trip will be there, which is in September. I think 10 to 12 or 20, 10 to 13th of September I have planned, but I have not yet announced it. So let's see.
Okay. Abhay is asking, are you planning for Jordan's Corsair trip anytime?
No, because it has got also. I think Raju Kasambe had did a trip for Jordan Corsair, but they are even they did not get the proper permissions because it is a nocturnal bird and you need to go and see the bird and search in the night time. And being that area, it is Naxalite area, so the question of security and all, again you have to take a police permission and go in search in that area. That is not possible. So I'm not taking any trip for Jordan Corsair.
Yeah, I remember, I think Pamela also mentioned yesterday, and I think Bikram also mentioned some days back that they have not seen, the seasoned birders, they have not
Yes.
seen this bird as well. They are like that.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. A question is, what is the best book for a beginner?
Nobody has any question because it is a vast subject and I cannot cover all the elements of all the locations in this session, but I have tried to. Okay,
No,
how to know the habitat? Okay.
yeah.
One question is there, how to know the habitat? See, knowing the habitat covers all the elements of that area, including the flora, including the water availability, including the rainfall, including the climatic conditions, including the tree life, including the insects, including the fruiting trees, flowering trees, all the elements which cover your habitat, you have to study them. And then you have to choose that which birds are potential to this area. See, sometimes a guide will take you on a path, and but many times it happens that I got instinct feeling that we should wait here, and I'm getting a feeling that this bird may come in this area. So this is knowledge you gained uh, after going and going again and again and see and observe your things in nature. So only practice is a good thing to gain a knowledge about the habitats.
Okay.
And read more about the habitats, explore more.
Raj Mahadev is asking, thank you for the fantastic session. What is the best book for a beginner? I think you did mention Grimmett, but if you can elaborate.
Yes, Grimmett and this Salim Ali book is very good. Beginners, we mostly go by the pictures, so don't go by the pictures. Grimmett is good field guide, but for the information you have to have the Salim Ali book. Or if you are interested in waders, then Collins Bird Guide is there. If you are wobblers, then some specific books are there as per the families also. So you have to increase your books. Don't go by the picture that picture quality is good in this book, but this informative book we always ignore. That Salim Ali book has got very less sale in compared to the field guide in recent years. I'm not talking about the older days, but in recent years nobody wants to go and buy that Salim Ali book because it has got very low quality of pictures, illustrations, but it has got good information. Every bird they have described very well, and they have given the habitat, the food, the nesting, the season, every information you will get in that. But the limitations are they have covered only I think 600 or 700 birds, not more than that. But you have all the access of internet. Google is there, Wikipedia is there, eBird is there. So you don't go by the books. Explore all your possibilities. Explore all the potential sources of theory,
Okay.
as well as
Question
the practical knowledge is also good. Yeah.
question from Prakash Gore. Will you be planning a trip for Nicobar later this year?
Nicobar, it is difficult because the climatic conditions and the journey is very tiring. I think 3 or 4 days we just go in a boat to reach the Nicobar, Great Nicobar, and then the boat is also depends on the climatic condition. If there is a rain, then you will miss the boat. The boat will never come on the rainy days, and you have to keep, I think, 10 to 15 days time for the Nicobar trip, and that will be very expensive. So I may not think about the Great Nicobar this year, but Andaman I will be doing sure.
Okay. Harshad Joshi is
But
asking
Little Andaman I can do, where you can see more species which are endemic to Andaman, but not Nicobar in such.
all right. Okay. Harshad is asking where can you see osprey in Konkan region, Sindhudurga, Goa border, or Tilari?
See,
Osprey.
osprey prefers mostly marshland. Osprey you can see in Konkan region, the Dhamakpur Lake is there. You can go and visit that area, or osprey you can see any freshwater lake around the Konkan region. That Sawantwadi Lake is also there. I forgot the name, but it's just nearby the station area. You can visit that, or Dhamapur Lake is good. Tilari or that higher altitude range, you may not find the osprey, but the lower altitude areas like Chiploon area, or if you come towards the Mumbai side, the osprey is very commonly seen. It prefers the it feeds on the fishes, so mostly it prefers the marshlands like mangrove forest, and around that you may find the bird.
Thank you for that.
Anything?
Prakash is asking, which do you think is your best bird sighting till now, and can you describe it? It's the experience as well.
Best bird sighting, sighting wise, I can say uh, the ruddy kingfisher just in recent trip of my Andaman. Uh, Even the means guide were also very shocked by my sighting, because I was knowing that this is the proper habitat and we should search here only. And this happened many times. Many times I have sighted the birds which guides even have not expected, but which I have mentioned earlier, that instinct come from my mind, and that I wait at some place. And even the Arctic warbler also, we were find that, and the guide was also not sure, but I sighted and I could manage to get good photographs also of the Arctic warbler. So it 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 depends on the situation, where nothing is there, no chirping of bird, nothing is there, no sighting, no mixed hunting parties. But sometime I wait, and I got the sighting. So that is the best sightings I can say. No such specific sightings.
Great. Swapnil Dige is asking, as per your experience, which is the most
Hmm.
dense birding spot in terms of number and the species? Most dense.
Dense. I think the Mishmi Hill trips is very dense in kind of birding also, and the forest also. The Mishmi Hills I have visited recently before the lockdown in March, and we saw around more than 250 birds in a 8 days trip. So that is the very good density of numbers in
Wow,
birds.
that is the life list of many people on this trip,
Yes.
I guess. Yeah.
Okay. No, that area has got very good bird life, but because of the hunting and other things happening in that area, the habitat is really in danger. So, if you have not seen the Northeast, just go and see wherever it is possible, because that habitat may get destroyed very soon.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
area has got around 600 and 700 species of that region, that seven sisters of that area.
Wow, that is a threat which we have all read about the Bang
Yes,
Valley, right?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the
Okay.
Bengali.
Yeah. Salim Ali Bird Sanctuary in Goa. Any good sightings there? Harshad Joshi is asking.
Yes, many good sightings are there, like gray-throated bulbul is there, then frogmouths and trogons. See, the Western Ghat endemic birds you can see in that area, Salimali Bird Sanctuary in Goa. Even I have forgot to mention the Zuari River of the Goa. That is also a good habitat to see the collared kingfisher or the brown winged kingfisher or the black cap kingfisher. Not the brown wing, sorry, the other two kingfishers. So that is also a good habitat in Goa.
Okay. So Swapnil
Habitat.
Patil is asking a question on the education part. He's saying there are lots of habitats and habitants in Mumbai. So can we add this to the syllabus to a school, or how can we what can we do for school? Just give your views on birds' behavior.
Actually, we are trying very much to add something in the school syllabus, but many times what happened, the teachers are not interested. We get some teachers who are interested in conservation, but many teachers are just want their theoretical questions, and they are only stick to their books, and they don't want any other syllabus in that. But we try to go and convey them, and we get trips for the students also. We go and give lectures about the environment around the city. We take them to the BPS, we show them how the bird life is there, how the diversity is there, what is the difference where you live and the birds are also living nearby you, how you can protect them. These things you have to uh, try to aware them. First you have to aware their teachers, not the students, and if the teachers are agree, then only you can go to the ground level. But we are trying. Many NGOs are there who are doing this work. Even I do. Clara ma'am is there, so she also helped me in all this conservational work. So we are not going only for the birding trips. We also take some students also and show them wherever we have got free times. We just uh, try to aware the students of schools.
All right.
Uh,
So Swapnil Joshi is also asking your views on bird behavior due to lockdown. What do you think? What is happening?
bird behavior in lockdown. Actually, lockdown period is our season ending. So there are no migrant birds now in the lockdown period. But I could, in my personal observation, was the birds are become very vocal, become very bold nowadays. They are, because of the less disturbance, and because of the less disturbance in noise also, we are getting the more calls, more clarity about their calls. And we are inside the house, so we don't know about the forest areas or marshland about like BPS and all. We have not visited, so we don't know actually. But from the terrace I have observed that many flocks are passing, and many migrants have started their migration in this period of time. But we are not very sure about what is happening in the forest, that breeding of the forest birds, or we are not getting any update. So I cannot tell proper answer for this.
All right. Any more questions on the audio or on the chat? Okay. Jairaj is asking one question. I will ask. He says not related to birds, but what is the huge tree in the picture in Andamans you saw? Was
Uh,
it nudiflora?
Actually, yes, yes, yes.
Jairaj, you were
That
bang
is
on
the
right. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. I forgot the name, but I have mentioned in my diary, so I will just put that name on the group, so all may be aware.
Okay,
That
fine.
tree is there in the Chidia Tapu area. You can always go and see that tree.
Right. Chidia Tapu means basically Tapu means island and Chidia means bird.
Island,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yes, so they have named the bird island.
Okay, great. Any more questions coming in?
Okay.
If not, Avinash, for me, this has been excellent session. You can read the comments which are coming in the chat. Many
Yes,
people
yes,
are
yes.
thanking you how good it was. I have
Thank you so
recorded this
much.
session. I will edit it. And I will put up on YouTube and send the link on the WhatsApp group which we have. That's a temporary group. Once you have copied the link, then we will exit the group and we will close the group. Avinash,
Okay.
I'm sure many people would like to, join your trips in future. I think you have fantastic knowledge, and thank you very much for the
Yes.
session. You want to say anything?
Thank you, Francis, for giving me this opportunity. And I'm just trying to aware more people. You also do the same thing. That is only my suggestion for you. That birding you don't keep to yourself. You just share whatever you have knowledge, whatever you have gained from the nature. You just share it. Don't keep it to yourself. Sharing is always good to conserve the nature. So
Absolutely.
thank
I think that is what we are trying to do in this group as well. We are a group of BNHS
yes.
students who completed the ornithology course, and we are trying to get together and get other people to talk to us, and we talk to each other. And thank you very much for the session.
Great.
Yeah, and thank you
Yes,
for the
thank you
advice.
so much.
All
Yeah,
right.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So with this,
Bye bye.
we end the session. Thank you to all the participants who have joined and patiently coming back break after break. So thank you very much for that, and apologies for the frequent breaks due to the technical issue. But thank you very much. Do join us for the upcoming sessions next week. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.